bad this sounds. Let me see. Technical testing. Okay. Test. Test. How bad that AC sounds. Oh, that sounds terrible. That sounds bad. Oh, that sounds terrible. Just gonna switch. See, it fixed it. I still hear a static. 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 Why does my mic suck? Why does my mic suck? It's just gonna keep saying that. Screw it. I don't know what kind of static I'm picking up here. Change the mics. See what that does. Technical. Get back. Hello. Hello. Alright, that might be better. Hello. Alright, that might be better. Alright, that might be better. Shut up. See what it sounds like with the AC. Good Lord. Like this. Like this. Where's the static coming from? Where's the static coming from? Fuck it. It's two different mics. Fuck it. Oh, it's the PlayStation. Noisy ass PlayStation. Oh, it's the PlayStation. Noisy. Check, check. So terrible. The pickup that little ass sound from all the way over there. Check. I'm gonna try another mic. It sounds the same. Whatever. Fuck it. Alright, sweet. So we got Canadian Dragon today. Hey, what's up, buddy? Hey, is there, let me turn this down. Is there a lot of static coming from my end? Oh, okay. But I've been testing it the last few minutes. Let me just make sure I can hear you on the broadcast. Can you start saying stuff? Let me just... Let's see. Can you say... I don't know if it's coming in. Can you say other stuff? Let's see. Can you say... I don't know if it's coming in. Can you say other stuff? Let's see. Can you say... I don't know if it's coming in. Can you say other stuff? Let's see. Can you say... Why does that keep repeating? Oh, God. Can you say other stuff? I don't think I can hear you. Let me, do you have your settings set to share? I don't think I can hear you. Let me, do you have your settings? Yeah. I don't think I can hear you. Yeah, you're not coming through on the broadcast. Yeah, you're not coming through on... This mic is stupid. It picks up the fan from my PlayStation 20 feet away. And I got my AC on right now too, so I didn't know how bad the static is, but I don't know. Yeah, so you'll... Sure, sure. So you'll go to settings, and then go down to sharing and broadcasts, and then I think audio sharing settings. And you just check mark everything there. Do you see? Is that? Oh, okay. So, all right, just say a bunch of random things.
Hello. Kalashnikov. Kalashnikov.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we're hearing it.
Kalashnikov. Alright, just post that in the Discord. If we're ready. Post that in the Discord. And I'll mute my...
Jeez.
Sorry, I usually do the sound check crap with
No, it's all good.
certain dumb redhead. But how you doing, man? Canadian Dragon. Got him on We the Podcast. Been trying to get this together for a minute.
I'd say longer than a minute, maybe.
Yeah. Quite the minute. It's
Yeah.
it's
I've
hard.
been doing all right, though.
Yeah, that's good. I haven't. Yeah, it's hard to get three people together.
You'd think it'd be pretty easy, like, oh, just we're all gonna get together this date. Nope, it's a lot harder.
Right. But no, I'm so happy we're able to finally do this. I'd like to do it again eventually when we get Lila back.
Hmm. Eventually, at some point, when she's done surfing.
Right, pretending to surf, I should say. Just because you have a surfboard doesn't make you a surfer.
I don't know how well the waves are over at the Irish coast there, but hey, if you're able to try and surf, go ahead and do it.
Yeah. So I'm sure she has questions that I probably won't think of. So it's always fun to
Oh yeah.
get another. But I've known you from I think Ava was the first time I met you. That was back, I don't know, like a year ago now,
That was
right?
back in Contagion. Yeah, that was actually my very first character. Like, somehow, I didn't die within the first week of joining the server, like so many other people do.
How long did that Ava role play out?
I joined in on Contagion, I think, like a month into the iteration, and that character lasted the entire iteration.
Oh, wow.
Like, the amount of crazy things that happened too, it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Because you had the cobblestone cannibals that came around and started screwing around with the whole safe haven that was going on down in Electro, and then they just started screwing around with everyone. You had the Vanguard that were doing their stuff and all the crazy stuff that was going on there.
Right.
Like, there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened that iteration. And from what I remember hearing, that iteration was very tame.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
that went down. You were in God, it's been so long I can't even. It was the Oasis, right?
I was around the Oasis, yeah, that was kind of near the I want to say like middle point of the iteration. Essentially, the whole reason why my character Ava had gone up there to the Oasis was because she essentially wanted to get away from the problems of cannibals that they were having down south. And she figured, oh, well, I'll go up north. I know a few people up there. So, travel all the way up north. Down south, it was just a little too hectic at that point, and Ava was essentially losing her mind down there, because it was like every day she'd have problems that were going on, included but not limited to cannibals shooting at her. That actually was not a good situation for me, or at least the character, because going through an Electro at night, cannibals like just kind of made themselves known, prevalent. Like, I want to say a week prior, when they left someone's hand on the doorstep to the school down in Electro.
Yeah.
So it was essentially everyone was on edge. And my character, she was kind of, I guess, voluntold, like, hey, you're part of the Electro Police Force now by, unfortunately, someone who doesn't really play on the server too often now. They were trying to form a police department to keep that area safe. Ava was one of the first members of it. And so...
okay. So
patrolling, we would do like regular patrols around Electro, try and clear it out a bit. I think for a while we kept track of how many infected we killed, and I think by the time we stopped keeping track, we were at like 2,000 infected killed in the Electro area. But
you guys are actually logging the numbers of people, the infected that were...
For a while, yeah.
Wow.
It eventually got to a point where we lost track around like 2,000. And it's just, you'd fire a single shot off and there'd be so many infected that would just swarm in that area.
Yeah.
I make it a kind of a running joke now, like, oh yeah, I'm going to go back down to Electro, I'm going to start up the police department again, but no, realistically speaking, it's a death wish if you try and live in Electro, because eventually, no matter how good you are at taking out infected, you'll probably get got. I know I was almost gotten by infected a few times down there, so that was one of the reasons why it was like, yeah, no, I don't want to be down there anymore. But just the infected are crazy there.
Yeah, there was a crap load down there. I remember, Michael Cramp, what's up, guys? Let me know in the chat if the static's coming through real bad on my internet, or you just hear static. But no, one of my first videos for We That Remain was with the last, because I was gonna start the police station in the same iteration there as Detective Hardy. But me and my buddy got I have a video. There was like 30 infected just by the police station.
Oh yeah.
And then two other guys came and kind of ran us out. But that was around because I think I remember hearing about you guys a little later with the Vanguard when they came down to the
that was about, I think, like 2-3 weeks after I kind of joined a group there, because essentially I had spawned in on the coast, and me being completely new to WTR, I had no clue what the hell I was doing.
So you never role played at all?
I had before, like I'd played like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, but I'd never like role played on DayZ. And like I'd played DayZ official servers for a while, so I knew essentially the basics, like, okay, get food, step 1, get food, find food, get warmer clothes, find weapons, something to defend yourself. I knew all that type of stuff. And thankfully I spawned in like on the coast, literally right next to Kamishovo. So it was like, okay, decent little town, there's a police station, so long as stuff hasn't been looted, I'll be fine. I'll have food, I'll have probably something to defend myself, definitely better clothing than, the starting clothes that you start with on the shore. So that was my thought process behind it. 5 minutes of looting, I ran into my first person. They actually, well, fairly well. It was kind of funny. They actually warned me about going to Electro because they were from there. They were a part of that group. They kind of warned me, like, hey, just try to avoid Electro. There's some people there that aren't exactly the best in terms of, being friendly towards others. They're more likely to rob you.
Yeah.
So he kind of just gave me a few things, like some food, and then he gave me an axe and said, here you go. Like, I've spoken with him, like me and him were friends now, and I spoke with him later about it, and he's like, yeah, I fully expected to never see you again after that interaction. Little did he know I would run into another one of his friends not even 10 minutes later after looting the Kamishovo police station. And it was kind of funny because I was just walking out of the back door of the police station, and all I see is some dude walking down the road towards me. I'm like, oh, another person. Me not knowing if they're friendly or not.
Right.
I had just found a shotgun in there, and I had it loaded with rubber slugs, because any ammunition's better than no ammunition.
Yeah.
So just had that loaded up and was fully expecting at that point to get robbed. But I didn't. I played it cool, just was like, hey, how's it going? Kind of casual conversation and shit. Did our introductions and all that, and next thing you know, 2 other people come from behind me, are like, hey, who's this?
Oh, Jesus.
And it was 2 more of his friends, 2 more people from Electro. So, first group I met just down the road from where they live in Electro, and I helped them carry a bunch of stuff over to where they lived. It was at the Electro apartments and school, and they had a little community there. It had a few run-ins with some people prior, and they didn't exactly have the best reputation at that point, but I'd like to say, in a way, it was kind of turned around with the introduction of my character, to a certain extent.
Yeah, do you still get that feeling that you got back then when you see somebody, another player, like 20 feet away, and you know that they see you, and it's like
Sometimes, yes.
yeah, you never know.
Like, yeah, because with WTR, you never know who you're going to run into. You never know if they're going to be, like, someone friendly, if they're going to be someone hostile or anything like that. Like, you don't know who you're going to run into.
Right.
Sometimes you get lucky. You run into someone who is like, oh, hey, I've seen you before, or I've met you before, like, in character, say, just one-off chance, like, you met them a while ago, you were nice to them, you gave them some food when they were starving or something, and it's nice to be able to see them later on and see that they're okay, that they made it out of the situation they were in.
Right. Yeah, it's like a nice little surprise. Like, oh, wait,
Yeah, exactly.
remember this guy?
Yeah, exactly. And it's happened a few times with the following iterations and prologues, and it's been cool, like having that experience, knowing that you influenced someone's character, even just a minor degree.
Mm-hmm. Or when you meet somebody when they're fresh with their character, and then you meet them again in like a month, and they're, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
like completely different. Yeah, they're like
Yeah. Exactly.
they've had a whole arc and development, and it's not the same
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
It's nice seeing someone where they start off, and then seeing like where they are a month later or where they are at the end of their character's story.
Yeah. Like the prologues really help with that when they have
Yes.
people that survive that and then carry over. Dude, there was
Fedorov is still alive.
wow. So your character from the last prologue,
My character from this prologue that we had leading into this iteration, he's still alive and kicking.
Christ.
Yeah, I currently have a streak going on where I have not died at all in any of the iterations. Every one of my characters have survived the iterations except for the first prologue, because unfortunately I couldn't make it to that final event that they were doing. So that character, unfortunately, I believe, if I remember correctly, their last name was Volkov, and they died in their sleep. They were a Gorka police officer.
I was gonna say, yeah, that sounds familiar. Thought you were in the Gorka police.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way, like, I'm trying to keep like every character alive, trying to go about things like, okay, how would they react to this, like, realistically? Like, everyone wants to fucking survive everything, but at the same time, sometimes people get blinded by bloodlust, or if you're playing that type of character, or they get blinded by rage if they lose someone that they care about. And there were a few instances through my characters where I had to make a decision like that, where it's like, okay, is this character's story going to end here? Is it going to be because of something that they've decided, that they've determined, like, I'm going, no matter what the cost is, I'm going to do this? And it's happened a few times where just essentially I've gone out on a whim with this character thinking this is where their story ends. This is where they end up dying. And I've somehow come out not dying.
Right, so you're not avoiding hostile situations. You're just like kind of some luck and careful
To a certain extent, yeah.
thinking, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, because every character I go into, for example, with Ava, her essentially leaving the Electro Police Department, her leaving Electro altogether, was sparked mainly because of getting jumped by cannibals at night. She was patrolling the Electro area, just going through. Bright blue camo uniform, the police hat, and everything, like full fucking gear. Sorry. Full gear. And just going through Electro at night. Like it had just turned night. I'm not thinking anything of it. My character's thinking, like, okay, just gotta go through, do my rounds, then I get to go home, take a nap, or chill with the guys. I had a glow stick. I also had night vision, but no batteries, so I had a glow stick light in my way. I hear someone, so you know where the kind of industrial areas in Electro, where there's all the train tracks and stuff?
Yeah, I actually think I've seen the video from DS's perspective on this.
Yeah, so essentially, he genuinely thought he killed me, just because his perspective was him and Botzilla that was there just lit me up with AKs and an SKS. I genuinely thought I died. Just because, like, I heard someone beating on an infected on the other side of a brick wall. I call out, "Hello, is anyone there?" And then suddenly all I hear is just laughter.
Yeah.
Just laughter. That's all I fucking hear. And at that point in time,
just drop at that point, because
yes, because the next thing I heard, I raised my AK that I had like a AK-74 or something, just slowly raised it, and then all I fucking hear is, "Put your fucking hands up," and then I'm fucking like dropped because they had night vision. They seen me with an AK pointing it in their general direction.
yeah.
So in that situation, it's like, no matter what, it's either I shoot or they shoot. And they had suppressors. I didn't. I got 4 unsuppressed AK shots off. That drew in a horde that made them have to leave. Like, they dropped me and left. They thought that they genuinely killed me, but they didn't, and it added to my character. My character at that point, Ava, legitimately thought when she ran to the closest buildings that were that she knew had people, just got up, stumbled around a bit, picked up her AK, and fucking... Sorry, I am very sorry, I keep swearing.
Okay.
But so just booked it to the closest building that had people at it, which was a piano house, which was where Borsch was staying. At the time, Borsch, he was setting up like a little radio kind of station he would do for the Electro area. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere, partially because of this.
Starting to get a bunch of cannibal rumors.
Yeah, exactly.
And threats down there.
Exactly. But booked it up there, started like patting myself down, like in character, my character Ava thought she lived because her jacket was torn to shreds, her backpack was torn to shreds, her plate carrier that she had completely spotless. So she was looking at it as I got super lucky, and then looking in her jacket, I had like 4 cans of Pepsi or Spite or whatever, they were
Yeah.
all ruined. All of them were ruined, so my character was looking at it as these cans of pop saved my life.
Cushion the bullets. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
it was,
I didn't know that happened. I didn't know that was you in the clip. I always figured that person
yeah,
was dead because, well, from like I
no,
said,
no,
from their perspective, they leave because the horde starts
exactly.
coming.
From their perspective, they shoot, they had suppressed guns. I didn't. Like, I just straight up, I was so lucky that I got those 4 unsuppressed rounds off because they already had a bit of trouble with infected. Like, looking back at their clip, they had a few infected that they were dealing with, but they were dealing with them. They were trying to be as quiet as possible. Then me with an unsuppressed AK just happened to stroll along.
Right. That's what's great about this role playing service. You just bump in Daisy, you just bump into somebody at the completely wrong time, and it's
Oh yeah, exactly. Like,
Michael's.
and that's the best part about it. Like, you never know what's going to happen when you go into just any town or any city like that. You don't know if
Yeah,
there's people living there. You don't know if there's no one living there and it's just a ghost town where the only things left there are infected.
right.
It's always nice being able to come out of an interaction like that where it's like, okay, yeah, I got shot. This will add character to my like this character's story, or it'll add more motivation for them to do something, which is what happened with Ava. She was done getting shot at. She was done losing people, so she essentially, for lack of better terms, ran away.
Yeah, done with Electro.
Exactly. Like,
Oh,
she ended up just leaving.
mm.
She went up north. She had gotten in contact with a priest. Shoot, what was his character's name?
Was he the one
Uh,
that ended up getting like sacrificing himself to the cannibals?
yes, he was the one that essentially started the war with the cannibals.
I think it
Uh,
was Gage. Tim Gage? Was it Tim Gage?
no, that was someone else. That wasn't Tim Gage. Tim Gage was Isaac Newton's character, I think,
Oh,
if I
right,
remember
right.
correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I know who you're talking about. I just can't remember the name.
yeah, I forget the character's name, but they ended up playing Blevin later.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
Aaron. I think his
yeah,
PSN's like Aaron or something.
yeah. His PSN is Aaron, but he like I had gotten in contact with him and just ended up going up there and made a home up there. And it was kind of funny because of doing that. That's how I met Wyla. In a way, that's how I met you.
Mm.
Like, that's how I met all these different people in a completely different part of the country that, like, just I would never have met and otherwise if I had stayed down south in Electro in that area. It To be completely honest, if I stayed in Electro with Ava, Ava probably would have died in Electro because people just started dropping like flies there.
All right. Yeah, that police force phased out. So I remember later on, uh, the McCarthy pub when it started over there in Cherno, and then there was like one person from the police station, uh,
Yeah, there was a
Fat Santa.
after. Yeah, that Max Fat Santa. He
Yeah.
essentially his character was newer to the police force. They were around for a little bit, uh, but in terms of like all the members of the police force that were there, his character was the newest. And after like everyone essentially ended up leaving, going their own ways, they ended up going over to the McCarthys, from what I understand, and then eventually came up to the Oasis and made a home there. And um, from what I understand, he ended up getting the final killing blow on uh, DS's character, Johnny Cobblestone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, him and Buck Jonesy. They ended up getting into a firefight with DS over at the Oasis on like one of the final days of the iteration.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
ask. Was that had to have been after the raid on the castle? Right?
yeah, it was a while after the raid on the castle. It was essentially, I think, when the final event started for that iteration, where it was essentially like a closing ring towards one area.
Uh-huh.
Um, essentially, it was, I think, that day when they ended up killing Johnny Cobblestone. But then Bodzilla's character got away. So it was like the Electro PD had, at the very end, completed its goal in getting Johnny Cobblestone, the main figurehead of the Cobblestone family.
Yeah. Michael says, and they say soda isn't healthy. Oh yeah, yeah. Saved Ava.
Yeah, so soda, it saves lives now, so.
Yeah, it'd be a great advertisement commercial for Coke. What's up, Delta
People
Blake?
say our product isn't healthy, but it saves lives. It can stop a bullet.
Right, bulletproof Coca-Cola. Uh, Going back a bit, when you first joined, was Ava your character that you did for the whitelist application?
Yeah, she was.
Okay.
I remember I had to, me being stupid at the time, I was doing it all on my phone, and at the time I had an old, like, LG Q6, and at the time LG had, that phone at that time was like 4 years old, and LG had stopped making phones around that time, so it was
Mm.
already outdated and it needed to be replaced, but I was cheap and was like, oh, it's still working, so why should I get a new phone?
Mm.
Um, and I was doing it, like, just going through the whitelist app all on my phone. I'm going to be completely honest. It took me like 2 or 3 tries to actually get the whitelist app right.
Yeah.
Because it
There
was
was
just,
there was a lot more questions too. I think then.
yeah, there was, back then there was more questions. They've kind of slimmed down the questions to more of the important stuff regarding like KOS and hostile interactions, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But it was kind of funny because um, I wasn't thinking about pulling out my laptop and doing it all on there. No, I just wanted to do it all on my phone because thinking, yeah, I just do it on my phone, it'll be easier. No, it turned out to be a lot harder. I had to rewrite the story that I had, backstory that I had created for Ava like 3 separate times.
That must have been a
It
headache.
was, yeah. But in a way, it helped me like create a better story
Yeah.
because there was the first one, which was kind of bare bones, and then there was the second one, which was more fleshed out, but had some more irrelevant details to it. And then there was the third version that I had finally done, and it was like, okay, this is the way I want it. This is what I'm happy with. And that time I actually got in.
Right.
Third time's the charm, so they say.
Yeah. And that's for newer iterations on your next characters. Are you the type that just kind of flies in there, or do you have like a do you kind of like have a pre-planned idea of where your character's going to be, or
Uh,
do you just kind of like load the game up and go, all right, I'm going to call myself?
uh, I I kind of did that for, um, in a way, I kind of did that for this character, Dmitri. Dmitri Fedorov, Capitan of the uh, Chernarus National Guard. Kind of did it for that.
Yeah, it was a good Russian
However,
accent.
yeah, I've had 2 iterations to do a Russian accent, so my last character, Natasha Borozyuk, she was Russian, like actually Russian. Um, and yeah, that was a fun iteration there. And then this iteration, for Natasha, I had completely planned out like backstory and everything. Um, had a somewhat idea of what I was going to do with that character, and essentially was able to follow through for the most part, where for the first beginning portion of the iteration for that character, I kind of stayed to myself, only interacted with people when I wanted to trade or something, and then eventually I would end up joining a group. Ended up joining a group called the Caravan, and through me kind of being that, through that character kind of being that recluse that she was and only trading with people, she was able to get around to a lot of different places.
Was
Was able to.
was that last iteration or this iteration? I don't know why, but
that
my
was
memory
last iteration
blurs with these two. Okay.
Yeah, that was last iteration with the tower.
Okay.
And it was essentially like my character had when all the shit started hitting the fan in RP and everyone was kind of against the tower, it was the Caravan that had the whistleblower, the priest that had escaped from the tower.
Yeah.
And so there was a black site that we had that we were hiding the priest at, and no one figured out where it was, to our knowledge at least. For all we know, Tower could have known exactly where we fucking were, but just didn't bother coming to knock on our front door or anything.
Right.
But
were you the guys that took out the Black Can when Isaac Newton was running?
No, that was I don't know who that was actually. I know it was someone down south, someone based out of like the Cherno area.
Yeah.
Like Caravan, we had places all over.
I know. I'm gonna say that name sounds so familiar, and I remember hearing about him in game. I just don't think.
Caravan kind of tried to stay more quiet. However, eventually couldn't really stay quiet anymore. Kind of had to start doing stuff, and even then we were still kind of just pulling strings behind the scenes in a way. Nothing super major, but like we were getting in contact with different people, kind of trying to organize stuff. Like when the coalition ended up going against the tower, Caravan ended up giving them access to their base at Rippy.
Okay. All right. Now I remember. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there was that base at Riffy, and then there was our base at Zub, like Castle Zub, kind of center of the map.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another base that we had down in Cherno, or close to Cherno. And I'm trying to think, there was the Black Site too. That was quite literally middle of nowhere. There was like not even a town close to us for that spot. So it was like, okay, this is a perfect spot. Let's start building.
Yeah. Were the new build mechanics put in when you guys did the base boat?
They were put in about halfway through the iteration. So initially I had, when my character was a recluse, I had two separate bases that I would go to. One like far down south. I forget the name of the town that's like the farthest south on the coastline, where it had like a little bar going on a road, like heading up a hill, and I wanted to build in one of those bars, and I was like, all right, yeah, this is a perfect spot. Before building mechanics had been changed or fixed, I started trying to build. It was a mistake building there.
Yeah.
The only way I could end up building was like building halfway onto the road. And that there, it's kind of a tricky spot because at the time, the rules stated you could build on a road so long as you were an active player. And at that time, I was fairly active. However, there was a point in time where I was not so active, where I ended up taking kind of more of a back seat to things. And eventually I had to end up taking it down, which was fine. I already had another place that I was building at, which was a bar to the north of Cherno. Like literally to the north of it. Unfortunately, that place ended up getting offline rated.
Oh.
Just kind of went up north to Severograd one day, came back down after like staying there a few days. Came back down, and all I see is just all the walls except for a gate gone. So it sucked, but it happens to everyone at least once.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's
Like,
always a mystery to how people
yeah,
think they can get away with that.
yeah. Like, it sucks, but it is what it is. You learn to move on from it. In a way, because of that, that's kind of how my character ended up meeting new people and how my character ended up joining the caravan.
Were they were there that day that everybody rallied, right? At Rifty, like on the boat?
Yes, well,
Okay.
it was there, like it was the caravan base there, and it was
Right.
kind of funny because um, at the time I was heading back from Severograd, heading back home. By this point, all-out war had essentially been declared on the tower.
Hmm.
However, my character was kind of in the position of being friendly with all sides. So my character was just kind of sitting there watching her friends all kill each other. It was a sad situation, but at the same time, kind of comical because there was a few memes that came out of it. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Because there was one I remember, a friend of mine, Max, Fat Santa, he ended up making a meme, and it was just based off of an episode of The Mandalorian, the scene where, I think it was like the first season, or maybe second season, where Mando and, crap, Star Wars people are going to give me a hard time on this, because I like to boast that I'm a Star Wars guy, but I completely am blanking on the name of the female rebel, like commando that he ended up meeting with. Shoot,
God,
yeah, they
I'd
essentially,
help you out, but I hadn't watched it yet.
but essentially, the whole meme was those two were like Tower Caravan, and then little baby Yoda was Natasha, just kind of walking in, and like Natasha just wanted to be friends with everyone, and then meanwhile Tower Caravan fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good memes, funny memes came out of that. Just
Oh yeah.
poking fun at each other, and that's good. Like everyone's got to have a bit of fun. Everyone's got to have a good laugh from time to time.
Right. I think I remember one about it was like a Silence of the Lambs meme where you see
Oh yeah,
the night vision perspective, and then like
yeah.
Clarice fumbling around in the dark.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one.
Yeah.
Nah, and that whole coalition thing that ended up happening when they were meeting at Riffy at the time, like I was saying, I was coming back home from Severograd. So I was heading over to Riffy. I was on the radio with some dude who was trying to get in contact with me. So I eventually like reached out and ended up we talked for a little bit. I didn't know he was part of the coalition or anything. He just starts asking me like, "How do you feel about the tower?" And just kind of caught me off guard. But I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I kind of seen this coming. Everyone's kind of against the tower at this point. No one really likes what they did. Fair." Um, and just conversation kind of ended with my character essentially telling him like, "Listen, I don't really want to talk too much about this over the radio. If you want to meet, we can meet. But as far as me joining in whatever you're trying to do, I'm not partaking in it. I've lost too many friends at this point." And he's like, "Okay, well," I had mentioned that I was heading to my home at Riffy, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'll be waiting at Riffy." And it kind of just caught me off guard. I'm like, "Huh? What? What do you mean you'll be waiting there?"
Yeah, that was like 30 people, maybe.
Yeah, like I eventually walked up to the base, like Riffy, And all I see is just all these people running around. I have two guys come running up, like southern sounding accents, like, identify yourself. And I'm just sitting there like, I fucking live here. Just AK in hand, fucking full dressed, like, kind of commissar looking clothing and shit. I'm just standing there, AK in hand and all that. Just, I fucking live here. And at that point, I knew I'm gonna give these guys hell.
I remember that.
Just started like.
We just had like a hype. They just got hyped up from his speech, and everybody was like shooting their guns in the air, and they were playing "Fortunate Son." And then all of a sudden, this truck comes up from out of nowhere, and it was you. And everybody was just raging.
Oh no,
you know?
I was walking. Like, I walked over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I do
I don't
remember that. I believe that.
Yeah, and just started
Somebody
giving everyone shit there, like,
Who
this
the
is
fuck
our
you
fucking home, what the fuck are you doing here treating us like shit? Just went off on these guys. Eventually things all kind of calmed down a little bit, and it was like, I had a good time just giving people shit, just to give people shit as the character of Natasha.
Yeah.
But I kind of figured, like, thinking in the back of my head, like, all these guys probably gonna die. Because looking at it, like, my character at that time, they were like, they were a police officer, and essentially they had heard of the FSB, which was what the tower was. Essentially all FSB guys, like Russian Secret Service, essentially, think of it like that. And so they have a reputation, the FSB. So they're not to be fucked with. My character kind of knew that, because my character at that time, they were an older character. Like, they were pushing 41, 42. So in terms of like characters that you'd see in RP, you don't normally see anyone over like 35. Right. Occasionally you'll have like an older, like someone playing an old man or an old woman or something, but like you never usually see anyone that old.
Yeah.
So my character, they had, being a police officer, there, part of the lore for that iteration was there was a terrorist attack that took place before like the iteration started. And essentially, my character, I kind of just was like, okay, yeah, my character was there. They witnessed the FSB come in and take care of the terrorists. So it was kind of like that, where my character, just going off of like their kind of backstory, their kind of lore, it was like, okay, they've seen what FSB does. They don't want to fuck with that. Yeah. They don't want to get stuck in a situation where they're having to shoot at these guys, because they will shoot back and they won't miss.
Right.
That was her mindset behind it.
That's kind of interesting, because I think it was 2 people ended up in the tower that were in the Gorka police during the prologue. So you might have, your character, had you made it to that end event, probably would have, it could have very well
probably
ended up being, in the tower.
Yeah, probably could have been in the tower, honestly, if I had made it to that end event, which unfortunately time wasn't on my side. The way they had scheduled it, I think they had to start at like 5 p.m. Eastern Standard on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And at the time I was working a part-time job, and I got paid more if I worked on a Sunday. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll work on a Sunday. And then the next day it was announced, like, hey, final event's going to be that day. And I'm like, oh, I can't cancel my shift, so I can't be there.
Yeah. Yeah, that took hours, too. I was in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like, I had to go to work at, like, in, like, 3 hours, and the event just started. And I was like, all right, I got plenty of time. And then
yeah.
It was, like, 2 hours.
It's happened
later,
a few times
just
since.
Getting into the bunker, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And from what I understand with that event, too, with it being the first prologue, essentially, anyone who was in that bunker, would survive. However, they were only going to let in 5 civilians, because it being the first prologue, they were only going to allow so many people to carry their character on to the next iteration. That was the thought process, that these characters would help drive a lot of RP, they'd have a lot of backstory behind it. That was the thought process at the time. They just didn't know how many people would be, like how many people they wanted to have survive.
Yeah.
So essentially the way they ended up doing it, 5 civilians, any police and FSB or military would be allowed to continue their characters into the next iteration from the prologue. And with it being a prologue, and the first one at that, there was a lot of hiccups.
Oh yeah. Oh, excuse me. There was. I also heard there was like they had a Discord for arrests. They were like logging. So if you had a criminal history, you also.
Sorry, younger brother just walked in my room. You were saying with arrests and stuff?
Yeah, I've also heard that too. Like the police had a Discord for logging and documenting.
No.
No.
No, actually, that was a separate channel that was made on the WTR Discord server.
Oh.
It was just something so that were there. Anyone who had the police force role would be able to put in arrests and
Right.
like gun licenses and stuff like that. And then at the same time, it would be able to be monitored by the staff. So that were there in case anything sketchy or rule breaking was happening, it could be dealt with. Which, funny thing, there weren't too many rule breaks in terms of like staff, or well, not staff, like police officers that started off originally just being staff, and then it was kind of branched out. A few trusted members of the community who at that point were known to be good role players. They were allowed to be on the police force as well. And then the military, that was kind of handpicked by higher ups. Essentially people who they knew they could trust in terms of like, they won't just take an AK and then go quote unquote AWOL or something like that. So there wasn't any what's it called, like rule breaks or staff issues with the police force or the military. However, there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of people who were new or newer to the server who didn't fully understand the rules, I believe, and it got to a point where despite numerous announcements stating this is not a civs versus cops roleplay, like roleplay as realistically as you possibly can, like we're not trying to do a civs versus cops roleplay, it eventually devolved into a civs versus cops roleplay with the detachment of FSB that eventually came in.
Right, yeah. 'Cause, yeah, there was a huge influx of new players. Not that that's a bad thing,
Yeah.
but I remember there was a time when there was like 20 people just standing outside the police station.
Oh yeah,
shouting
and
random things, and you couldn't really have a
no one could really
conversation.
get PS5s at that time either, because PS5s had just dropped, they had just come out. No one could get those at the time. So if you were able to find one and you had one, you weren't really having any issues. Anyone, however, which was 99.99% of the server pop, anyone who had a PS4, they were having a hard time waking up around that police station because of the amount of people that would hover around it.
I'd like to ask you about that, because I'm still PS4 at the moment, but so that's a huge. I mean, I know it's a huge technical, it's got better hardware, but
yeah, better hardware and everything.
Yeah, in terms of like performance of DayZ, so that's one of the big differences. Like you're not
it's night and day.
Yeah,
dude, it is straight up night and day. Like For PS4, you load on, and you're getting at the maximum amount of frames that you can get on a PS4. I think is like, I don't recall. I think it's like 30 or 40 frames max. I think,
Mm-hmm.
depending on which one you can get. And eventually, um, if you have it for a while, eventually it starts to get a lot slower and a lot more choppy. And that's most of the server player base where they have an older PS4. It's going to be a bit more choppy. It's going to be laggy. You're going to have a lot more graphical glitches, especially if you're around a big base.
Right.
Like when I was on PS4, around that police station, there wasn't a lot of, like, there was hardly anything built there. There was just a gate on the door and a few spots to prevent people from, jumping in or trying to climb in or anything.
Yeah.
So that was essentially it. However, when there's a whole bunch of people and all of them are talking, it is borderline impossible for you to log in.
Right.
Like, I would load in, my character model would be there. However, I would crash because of the 20 notifications of people talking around the police station.
Yeah, yeah. It was hard to.
On PS5, holy shit. It is so much better. Like, with it being Daisy, it's gonna be difficult sometimes to have your console perform to the best of its abilities because it's Daisy. It's not exactly the most well optimized game.
So yeah,
Um,
I mean, you're still gonna have like a little glitch here if you're driving and.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, like that's just Daisy at that point. Like Daisy on console, everyone knows it's not the most stable game out there. It's gotten a lot better, and on PS5 it's leaps and bounds better than on PS4 in terms of being able to play and not having so many graphical stuff
Mm-hmm.
happen and not having such a hard time loading in bases and stuff. But it's still, there's room for improvement in terms of Daisy itself. The PS5, honestly, I fucking love it. Like,
So you can go
I'm
near a
so glad.
gigantic
Yes,
base without there being like
yeah.
stuff popping
You
in
won't
and popping
crash.
out. Yeah.
Like, maybe one time out of 10, you'll crash, but 9 times out of 10, you won't crash. You'll have the occasional, like, obviously, when you go near any big base, you're going to have, like, stuttering and um, a bit of frame rate drop just because it's a huge base that your console is trying to load in all at once. Because that's kind of what the PS5 does. It tries to load everything in around you at once.
Mm.
And when you're around a big base like that, that's not exactly a good idea.
Right.
It's not ideal for that, but it still does it. But you'll notice you'll get the stuttering and the frame rate drop just a tad. The worst that I've had it so far was when I was loading in. I forget where it was. I think it was at Blackwoods this iteration, where just they had all the fencing and stuff built up there. I was loading in, and essentially I ended up almost crashing on start. Like I thought I crashed, but my game just was taking a minute to load everything because they got a lot of walls there. Like that place, it's pretty fucking like sound when it came to building it and making sure that people can't get in. And that requires a lot of materials and resources. So essentially, it's really labor intensive for your console on PS4 or PS5
You're
to
talking.
load in there.
Are you talking about Fort Nassau or
No, Blackwood.
Blackwood? Okay. Oh, right, right,
Or
right.
New Eden, I guess they rebranded to, I think.
Yeah. Have you been? I'm not trying to like meta, but like base wise, have you seen Fort Nassau?
I've actually never been around there, like been to where they built, but I've heard that it's massive. Like they essentially walled off a good chunk of Cherno, from what I understand.
Yeah. I always, yeah, when you see it from the distance, so it's like, good God, there's no way I'm going to be able to walk in this city, but it actually, I was surprised. It's strange.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. But, yeah, that somebody put like 200 hours into
Oh yeah, definitely, easily.
it's insane.
Yeah, and like
Blackwood was pretty sizable. I hadn't seen that Blackwood though in like a month or two.
yeah, Blackwood's it's pretty sizable base. So is EIC. Like right where the Oasis used to be, like right next to there where those army barracks are. That's a sizable compound that they made there.
Hmm.
I've never been around there. I've like seen it, but I've never been in there. But I can imagine, like if you're on PS4, you probably get a bit of lag there, like quite a bit of lag, depending on like how much they actually have built there.
Right.
But yeah, um, it's honestly like if you're able to get a PS5, it'll improve your enjoyment of the game so much more because you won't have so many lag spikes or frame rate drops. You won't have to say like, "Oh, I'm having a really bad headache," or "Hey, I need to take a nap because my eardrums popped," or something like that. You won't have to worry about saying that in character
You're
just
right.
to restart your application essentially.
Yeah, I've seen some videos posted from people that I know have a PS. Like Joella, she would post some
Mm-hmm.
videos when she got a PS5, and I was like, Jesus Christ, is that
Yeah.
like photo? Are you like editing the textures? I mean, it looked like it looked different, and just running seemed like a
Oh
different
yeah.
thing. But I
Just
never really,
overall, like the
yeah.
entire game just runs so much more smooth, as expected to.
Hmm. I keep hearing the next update's going to be a driving mechanics are supposed to be like overhauled.
Yeah, I heard about that too. I'm looking forward to it because uh, it'd be nice to actually be able to drive a car and not have to worry about is it going to start bouncing uncontrollably and then launch me into the air.
Yeah.
Because how this iteration alone, like it's been really bad for cars. Like at CNG, we had two cars just spontaneously combust. Like blackout happens, or well, server reset happens, we load back in, and cars are just on fire. And we're just like, what? Just cars completely on fire, burning, ruined. It's like, what the fuck happened?
How do you roleplay that? A damn car bomb.
I mean, it's kind of funny because we just chalked it up to someone didn't do the oil change on it.
Right.
But yeah,
Start blaming
it's.
people.
But in that situation, you can't really blame anyone. It's just kind of it leads to a funny situation in RP. It's like, okay, who didn't do the fucking oil change?
Yeah. And then there was a problem at one point where if you parked your car in the shed and came back in, it was on top of the shed. That happened to me once or twice.
Yeah. If you end up, say, for example, you're getting home to your base or something, and you open up the gate, you get halfway through the gate, and server resets. Um, the gate doors close and then open upon reset.
Mm. Yeah.
So,
Just
oh, hold
launches your
on.
car. What's up, Michael? That's why people should talk one at a time if there's a lot of people. Yeah, the prologue in Gorka, though, I don't think it was pretty good, but it was like a few days.
I am sorry, I'm going to have to cut this short.
Yeah, okay, no problem.
uh, I will. Hopefully, we can do this again at some point. I've really enjoyed being able to talk with you about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. Sorry it took so long. Like you said, yeah, we gotta do it again with with Wilo.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. I will talk with you another time.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too. What are you up to, Michael? You want to pop in, Mike? If you're on. Let's see. Mikey Mike. Well, thanks for watching. That was Canadian Dragon. While I couldn't be here today, she's pretending to surf. Yeah. Just because you have a surfboard doesn't make you a surfer. Thank you, Cramp, Michael, Dr. Blake, Jesse Coleman. I'm not reading your PSN inbox. All right. We'll try to have another podcast every Sunday, but it's hard getting three people on at the same time. So, yeah, see what happens. Hey, Gutso, I try to get Gutso on. All right. See you guys. Thanks.